I'm Susan L. Schulman. I'm a theatrical press agent. I'm a member of ATPAM, which is the Association of Theatrical Press Agents and Managers. The reason I use L is because there are 3 Susan Schulmans in the theater. The press agent, who's Susan L., the director, who's Susan H., and there's a wonderful literary agent who's Susan F. Schulman. So it's very important which one. What do I do? No one knows what a press agent does. What we do is create the right expectations for a show, as I said before. We create interest in a production or an individual, obviously to generate ticket sales, but what we do is unpaid space. In other words, if you buy an ad for something, that's paid space. Unpaid space is a feature article, an interview, a television spot, a radio interview, a photo, a column item, a special event, special appearance someplace. These are all things that press agents try to do for their clients. One of the things that a press agent does is to help create the image for a show so that the preconceived notions that the audiences and critics have is true to the production and true to the play. The last thing you want to do is create inappropriate expectations. One of the things we do is help create the image for a show, and these are 2 interesting ones. When George C. Scott was going to do Sly Fox, the image of the show seemed logically to be George C. Scott wearing the nightcap, which was one of the things that the character Sly wore in the show. However, as the development of the artwork went on, the producers pointed out that George C. Scott was only signed for 6 months, and that when he left, if the show's logo was tied to his image, we would have to create a whole new image, and that wasn't a very productive thing to do for a show that they hoped would have a long life. So the image went from being a photograph of George C. Scott to being a cartoon image. And this image was such a good one because you see it's half fox, half human, and it's got the nightcap and all. They did a revival a couple of years ago on Broadway, and they used the same image. So it was a very good choice. When I was in college, I was dying to be in the theater, but I couldn't see any way that I could do that. I knew I wasn't good enough to be a performer. I knew I wasn't tough enough to be a performer. I didn't have that veneer that you need to be able to take all the rejection. And I couldn't really conceive of any way for me to be in the theater. I did have a background, my degree was in English and theater from NYU, but I couldn't really conceive of what I could do in the theater. It turns out that everything that I had done up until the time I got my first job was leading me directly to being a press agent. But I didn't even know that there was such a thing. I knew there was a job title, but I had no idea what they did. But when I finally had an opportunity to interview for a press agent job, it turned out that I'd always been sort of hustling for shows that I'd done in college or in the summer and in community theater and stuff. And so I had that gene, and that was my way in. And that was a route that I didn't even know existed in college. I had done all the tech stuff, I'd been in shows, I'd worked backstage, I'd painted flats, and I'd, run the lights, I'd done all that stuff. And I knew how to do it, but that wasn't the career route for me. But it turned out being a press agent was something that I didn't really know existed, and it turned out to be something I was ideally suited for. So I was very lucky. Who knew? I handle a variety of clients, mostly live entertainment, so theater, plays, musicals. I also handle dance, I handle individual actors, individual personalities, special events, and once in a while books and film. But mostly it's live, and my specialty is live entertainment. Actors often come to me asking if this is the moment for them to have a personal press agent. And I think it's very important that they be in a role that presents them. In other words, not just that they have a good role in a show, but it's a role that really makes them shine. And sometimes you can have a role that makes you shine, but the production isn't very good. Or you can have a mediocre role in a big hit show. But all those those things have to come together. And I'm kind of notorious for turning people down and saying that I don't think it's the right moment. Recently, somebody who was one of the leads in Jersey Boys talked to me, and he was wonderful in the show, but the role wasn't one of the two key roles. And I felt the timing wasn't right for him, and that he wasn't going to become a star because of that part. He would go on and work and probably get another star-making role, but that this wasn't the one. And I think he was very disappointed, but I was right. And he's gone on to have a very good career, and he's terrific, but it wasn't the moment. So all of those things need to be in the right place. Sometimes people think that press agents can get them jobs, and occasionally that's true, but that's not really what we do. What we do is build on what you've got. So the given in New York is that if you've got a job, you're already terrific. I mean, the level of expertise in theater in New York is extraordinary. So just being cast in a show is the good housekeeping seal of approval in terms of talent. But having a press agent, some people think having a press agent will get them a job, and that's the opposite of what happens. What we do is build on what you've got. So it's important to not put the horse before the cart. Actors can help themselves. The first thing is to be professional about how they present themselves. You know, Facebook's nice, MySpace is nice. If you're a working actor, you should have a website, a dedicated website that is a resource for the media and a resource for people looking to hire you. It shouldn't be a fan site, it shouldn't be cutesy, it shouldn't have your daily toings and froings. It should be professional. It should have your work resume, it should have pictures, it should have production photos, it should have reviews. It should be a resource. It should be a resource for the media, and it should be a resource for people that might be interested in hiring you, and it should be your name if at all possible, not some cutesy little name that you think is funny and means something deeply important to you and nobody else will ever find you. The other thing that actors can do is to always be prepared, always to have your resume with you, always to have cards, approach acting as a business, because it is a business. It's called show business. And if you put on a play and no one comes, it's literature. So think of it that way. Think of it also in terms of building relationships. If you meet somebody and you want to continue a relationship with them, get their card. Contact them afterwards. Say, it was great to meet you, so they have your contact information. Send a thank you note if somebody's done something nice for you, an email. People often ask me if it's okay to thank critics. Well, they have egos. They're people. I'm not saying you should suck up to them and do anything inappropriate, but if somebody writes a wonderful review, send them a note. If you don't know how to reach them, send them a note at their newspaper and say thank you so much for your perceptive comments. They meant a lot to me. They'll remember.
There's no people like show people. They smile when they are low. Even with a turkey that you know will fold, you may be stranded out in the cold. Still you wouldn't trade it for a sack of gold. Let's go on with the show. Let's go on with the show.